Check the mic and make sure it sound right.
Ha ha ha, tumeuona mkono wake Bwana. Mengi mazuri tumeyaona, Mungu umetenda, ni kweli wewe muweza. Ulitamka vitu vikawa, neno tulatosha, ukisema umetenda. Kawatoa utumwani, watumishi wako umewapa yote waombayo, ikiwa umependezwa. Uamualo hakuna wa kulipinga, hakika wewe ni Mungu wa vyote. Unatawala dunia na vilivyomo, makuu umeyatenda Jehova, hakika tumeona.
For the people who work numbers, I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks. And secondly, we, through the central bank, we are having conversations to reinstate the interbank exchange market that has since not worked. And I am happy that the players in that sector, including our banks, are coming forward and they are participating, and they are working with the central bank so that we can again take charge of our market, and that it is not allowed to be distorted by brokers. I'm told the only place where brokers are accepted is at the exchange. Why are we bringing dollars in the middle of our trade? This is the question we should be asking ourselves. And in the process, all our business people are stranded. Egypt cannot pay for our tea because they are looking for dollars. We cannot pay for their sugar because we are also looking for dollars. You know? And this is I had a conversation with President Orama of the Afri-Exim Bank, and they have built a mechanism where all our traders can trade in the local currency, and we leave it to the Africa Exim Bank to settle all the payments in local currency. We do not have to look for dollars. Our businessmen, our business people, our traders will concentrate on moving goods and services and leave the arduous task of currencies to Afri-Exim Bank. I know we're all trying to see because of what the dollar has done to all our economies. The dollar has moved from less than 1% in the US to about 5.2%. With that movement, and I am told it is the steepest rise in interest rates ever since the US established their mechanism.
Hi, I'm DK Will, and this is DK Will Talk About It. Hope you appreciated that introduction, giving some honor to Kenya and its progression in the financial system. And you can see the progression. The President Ruto first gave a little warning, and as you see from his article here, he said the dollar demand is to ease in a couple of weeks. He wasn't joking around, folks, because Kenya actually did begin to ease their use of the dollar. He said, this article states that he expected the dollar demand in the country to ease as the government plans to import fuel in Kenya shillings instead. I'm glad I saw that, so I know what they call their money. So big changes are coming, folks, and the reason I'm bringing attention to this is because, as one would expect who has had their ear to the ground on matters involving the financial system, the global currency reset, you can even get into the conspiracy thinking of the New World Order, which I did a video recently where that was actually mentioned on the Office of the Comptroller's website. But we can see changes are happening, folks. And Kenya is just an example. And some of the things I'd like to bring to your attention in this video is by just connecting a few simple dots, you can see that this also impacts clearly Ripple and XRP usage. And I'll show that here as well. If you think it's a conspiracy theory, here in this article here, it asks that question: a new world order? BRICS nations offer an alternative to the West, and we're going to see that this Kenya move is also tied to BRICS. And BRICS is anticipated by the year 2027 to have a combined economic GDP that is actually greater than the United States. And so the earlier videos I did, I'll try to put the tags here on this video. You might want to check out the ones that relate to the BRICS conversation. But it goes on to say this article is from April of 23. It says predictions about the BRICS countries as the fastest growing economies haven't quite panned out. Instead, the alliance is now offering a diplomatic forum and developing financing outside of the Western mainstream. So that's their solution. And it, without me making this a 24-hour video, the information I read does show what I just told you, that they expect to go in the $27 trillion neighborhood with their combined GDP. And the reason being is because multiple nations are expanding BRICS. And you can see here, this article from April of 23 shows that 19 countries expressed interest in joining the BRICS group. And amongst those 19 countries, this article touches on some of them, but this video is going to specifically deal with how Kenya is part of it. And it does reference here on the bottom Saudi Arabia, which was a major United States partner, and Iran are among the countries who formally asked to join. It says here Argentina, the United Arab Emirates, Algeria, Egypt, Iran, Indonesia. Then it says along with 2 nations from East Africa and 1 from West Africa, which he didn't identify. And when you take a look at Wikipedia and the location of Kenya, right here, Kenya, you can see that's absolutely almost about as far east as you can go, and other than, I guess that's Nairobi, if I remember correctly from my geography classes. But nonetheless, there you see that's about as far east as you can go. So now I'm going to do a quick show that the BRICS nations are tied to Kenya. And if the BRICS nations are tied to Kenya, and Kenya is moving away from the dollar, and the BRICS nations have moved away from the dollar, there's a clue that if they're doing business with the BRICS nations, that is Kenya, then they too must be using the settlement system and the currency exchange system that the other nations are using. So many providers have shown that that is actually the ODL and the Ripple platform. So let's take a look at a few more examples that show that Kenya is included. As we are aware, the BRICS nations are inclusive of Brazil, that's the B, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, of course, as we've seen, 19 other countries are looking to join in, and it's probably more by now. This is an April article. But here you can see the trade between Kenya and Brazil. Keep in mind, Brazil's part of BRICS and they got rid of the dollar. And Kenya just announced that they're getting rid of the dollar. And then we have Russia signing trade pacts here in March of 2023, around the time the initial announcement was made, that they're signing trade pacts with President Ruto. And we know Russia is kind of spearheading this move with BRICS along with India. Speaking of India, India now targets IT and agriculture in Kenya trade. And so they too are establishing international trade relationships keeping in mind that relationships may have existed in the past, but as you saw in the introduction videos, it required searching for dollars. And here we know that BRICS has announced the de-dollarization, and now Kenya has joined the party. Now we got BRIC for China, and China is actually the largest trade nation with Kenya. I read that, take my word for it, but you can see the B's there. You can see the B's compared to the M's, right? So just take my word for it. But China is #1 trade with Kenya. And then that leaves us with South Africa. They're getting the ball rolling, but there you have the trade numbers with South Africa. So does that really mean that they're using Ripple? Well, if you look a little deeper, you can see Ripple partner MFS Africa was to facilitate outward remittance to 130 financial institutions. That's again March, around the time President Ruto gave his warning to get out of the dollar. And it says it collaborates with the Access Bank for outward remittance from Kenya and Nigeria. And MFS partners Access Bank to enable outward remittances from Kenya. MFS Africa, Africa's digital payment network, and Ripple's partner has inked a partnership deal. Now, I think it was Aframex Bank or something of that nature for Kenya. But you can see that they're all tied together because here you can see the African payment system as key to lifting continental trade. This article is February. And when we go down here, there it is. Afrexim Bank, the one that he mentioned in his speech. And we can see here this article, MFS, we've already talked about them. Africa sees PAP's African payment system. So folks, a lot of things are going on behind the scenes. This is just one piece of the pie, a very small piece of the pie for Ripple and the transition to a new monetary system. But absolutely, positively, this announcement from Kenya is also tied to it. So folks, Kenya's making moves, and BRICS, of course, is doing it on a global scale, taking in more and more countries. And this move with Kenya is significant, along with many others like it that aren't being exposed per se, but they're certainly not being hidden either. So while the BRICS countries keep making their deals, the new financial system keeps getting installed, and you can be sure that when they reach the finish line, there's going to have a ripple effect, and you can bet there's going to be some XRP involved. So that's all I got. I'm DK Will. This is DK Will Talk About It, and I've talked about it. So how do we feel about that, folks?
Traders from Djibouti selling to Kenya, or traders from Kenya selling to Djibouti, have to look for US dollars. How is US dollars part of the trade between Djibouti and Kenya? Why? And we are saying that today, Afri-Exim Bank have given us a mechanism where traders in our continent can trade in their goods and services, and the Africa-Exim Bank will settle payments in local currency.
XRP.
That is why
And Ripple.
Kenya champions the Pan-African payment and settlement system that is done by our own institution, the Afri-Exim Bank. Why, members? Why is it necessary for us to buy things from Djibouti and pay in dollars? Why? There is no reason. And we are not against the US dollar. We just want to trade much more freely. Let us pay in US dollars what we are buying from the US. But what we are buying from Djibouti, let's use local currency.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.